On this side, the investigation team, after successfully eliminating a zombie king, had already planned their next battle. They lured the entire zombie group in Tianhai City to concentrate in one place, then planned to eliminate the zombie king within. Although they couldn't eradicate them completely, it was still enough to control the situation. This battle resulted in the extermination of a large number of intelligent white-furred monkeys. Beyond Junwoo believed that the behavior of this zombie group had the potential to create new zombies. Its infection rate was much higher than that of ordinary zombies. Furthermore, the zombie king was intelligent and could continuously evolve through combat. Despite being considered the command center, it did not possess strong combat capabilities. Beyond Junwoo pointed to a spot on the Baishui sect map and said, "We will establish our base here." There were two reasons for choosing the Baishui sect as the central battleground. First, the number of Baishui sect's followers was the largest, making it easier to attract zombies. Second, Baishui sect was located right in the most densely populated area of Tianhai City. Therefore, it had the highest number of deaths and zombies underground. This was the easiest place to attract zombies. Beyond Junwoo quickly informed the five major forces with a simple notice, asking them to immediately arrange for the safety of their non-combatants. Afterwards, they were to gather all their combat forces at Baishui sect. The reactions of the five major forces to the investigation team's orders were very different. Xiao Honglian was currently the most benefited. The investigation team had helped them eliminate a large number of surrounding zombies. Especially after the zombie king was killed, the zombies around the Yongsheng base were dealt with easily. Xiao Honglian naturally knew that the investigation team must have killed the zombie king, the one controlling the zombie group. She admired the power of the investigation team, so without hesitation, she responded immediately. "Received. We will come right away." Although she wasn't clear about the significance of gathering at Baishui sect's cathedral, she needed to follow the orders based on her faith in the investigation team's strength and the overall context. The Qingpu and Jiaoyu bases reacted similarly. They had arranged for their non-combatants to take refuge safely underground. Xingtian and Wei Dingai, along with the majority of their combat forces, hurriedly headed to Baishui sect as per Beyond Junwoo's orders. Especially the people of Baishui sect, when Zheng Yixian received the news, his expression continuously changed, showing great concern. He repeatedly sought out Yuan Konye to report the situation. "The investigation team has requested everyone to gather here. It seems they want to engage in a major battle with zombies right here. This is not good news for us. If this area becomes the main battleground, the number of Baishui sect followers who may die could be very large." Beyond Junwoo always prioritized the overall situation. To him, the goal was simply to complete the mission, without much concern for the number of lives lost. This mindset wasn't wrong. If the zombie problem wasn't solved, there would come a time when Tianhai City and everyone in it would perish. The zombie horde could even spread to surrounding areas and eventually across the entire country. However, Baishui sect, as the entity being sacrificed, naturally did not want to see things develop in that direction. Yuan Konye frowned after hearing this and pondered, "There will be many deaths soon. Moreover, their concentration here also poses a threat to us. The relationship between the five major forces is not harmonious, especially between the Yongsheng base and the Jiaoyu base. We have betrayed them before, and they wish to annihilate all the leaders of the Baishui sect. It's possible that they might take advantage of the situation to harm Baishui sect." Zheng Yixian asked, "Yuan Konye, should we quickly relocate? If they discover us, it could be a big problem." Yuan Konye pondered for a moment and then slowly nodded. "Let's do as you suggested. But I don't need to worry too much. The gods above will protect the followers of the Baishui sect." She clasped her hands in prayer, sincerely beseeching for divine protection. It seemed that, at this point, the only thing they could do was pray. After all, Beyond Junwoo's plans had never considered their opinions. They had no choice but to obediently follow the orders. After receiving the news, Zhang Yi began to contemplate the deeper meaning behind the call to assemble at Baishui sect. Why choose Baishui sect as the assembly point and not another location? Why this ruinous place? Wait a minute, they're asking us to prepare all our combat forces. Could they be intending for us to confront the zombies in a major battle? They seem very confident about this battle. Have they discovered some important intelligence? Zhang Yi looked at the information on his mobile phone, pacing back and forth in the living room, pondering the hidden significance. At this moment, Yang Xinxin wheeled her chair closer and, seeing Zhang Yi deep in thought, couldn't help but ask, Zhang Yi Gerger, what are you thinking about? Zhang Yi smiled when he saw Yang Xinxin approaching and waved her over, saying, you arrived at just the right moment. Come here for a moment. After Yang Xinxin arrived, Zhang Yi shared the investigation team's information with her. Yang Xinxin looked at the information, thought for a moment, and then smiled, saying, Zhang Yi, this is actually good news. Zhang Yi responded with a smile, please explain carefully why this is good news. Yang Xinxin looked intently into Zhang Yi's eyes and asked, what's special about the Baishui sect? Well, they're quite poor. Aside from their numbers, they have no other resources. What are you implying? Do they have a lot of people? Yang Xinxin nodded, yes, their greatest strength is their large number of followers. She said with a touch of sarcasm, that's the only advantage they can boast about. Zhang Yi began to think about Baishui sect's combat methods. Their weapons were outdated, and their followers were not very strong. Thus, when fighting other forces, they often used self-sacrificial tactics to save others. This brutal and savage method of combat had also allowed them to carve out a survival space in Tianhai City. Yang Xinxin continued her analysis. If the zombies really have the ability to spread through bites, then Baishui sect's large numbers will definitely attract the most zombies. The investigation team has asked us to gather at Baishui sect and prepare all our combat forces. Their goal is quite clear. They want to organize a major battle with the zombies here. With the reinforcement from Baishui sect and other forces gathering, that place will certainly become the most conspicuous target in Tianhai City. Zhang Yi nodded as he listened to Yang Xinxin's analysis, and his thoughts became clearer. He looked at Yang Xinxin with surprise and said, if so, that means they know how to deal with this zombie horde, right? Previously, Zhang Yi's team had witnessed the terrifying power of the zombie horde, with the intelligent zombie king commanding and possessing combat strength equivalent to that of a heavily armored mutant zombie. Even they found it difficult to deal with. Yang Xinxin tilted her head and smiled, saying, if the investigation team is being mobilized from the Jiangnan region, their strength is certainly not ordinary. The most important thing is their intelligence. They have access to more intelligence sources than we do. Additionally, the cooperation from all the information providers helps them understand zombies much better than we do. Therefore, they can quickly figure out how to deal with zombies. Zhang Yi agreed that Yang Xinxin's points were very reasonable. Now that you mention it, our previous mission failed mainly because we knew too little about the enemy. We had never encountered the zombie king before and could only rely on fragmented information to make guesses, which created an unclear fear of it. Bian Junwu's team was much stronger than his own. The combat strength of Bian Junwu was beyond question, and his subordinates could be considered top-notch in Tianhai City. They were even comparable to the base leaders. Considering Xiao Honglian, Wei Dingai, and other high-level mutants forming a team, their combat strength was also impressive. Zhang Yi leaned back on the sofa and said calmly, well then, let's go see what they're planning. Yang Xinxin added, after all, a large-scale assembly of combat forces like this won't affect us too much. The advantage of a small team lies in their flexibility. Whether attacking or retreating, it's relatively easier. Moreover, without the interference of ordinary people, Zhang Yi's team can maintain a comfortable attitude on any battlefield. Alright, let's go see what their intentions are. Zhang Yi agreed with this decision. He then gathered everyone in the living room for a meeting. When everyone had assembled, Zhang Yi shared the news he had received. Uncle Vu, who had a keen intuition for warfare, spoke up, so it's going to be a fight? The human alliance against the zombie horde. Zhang Yi, leaning back on the sofa, appeared quite relaxed. If this is an alliance war, then many other forces will bear most of the pressure. They also don't need to worry too much, and having an elite team like their 7-person squad participating is a reliable factor. He continued, the battle is bound to happen sooner or later. If the zombie issue isn't resolved, our existence here will also be unstable. I just didn't expect them to act so quickly. To plan everything in one day shows that a professional team is truly different. After reflecting, Zhang Yi looked at everyone with a serious expression. But I want to emphasize that the most important thing is to ensure our own safety. Life is the most important. Everything else comes second, understood? Everyone nodded in agreement. They had heard this many times before, but Zhang Yi never failed to remind them carefully before undertaking any major action. Zhou K'er, looking somewhat worried, furrowed her brow and said, "In theory, shouldn't all of you go to Bai Shui sect and leave us at home?" Zhang Yi nodded firmly. Those who are not combatants shouldn't go there. If a battle actually breaks out, we will be facing an unimaginable number of zombies. At that point, we won't be able to protect you. He thought about the more than 10 million deaths in Tianhai City and still felt uneasy. He also didn't know how many of those who had died had turned into zombies. The alliance of the 5 major forces meant they might have to face the entire zombie horde in Tianhai City. He needed to be fully focused on the fight without any lingering worries. Zhou K'er argued, "But you will need doctors. If you get injured, I can help treat you." Zhang Yi always kept her in a safe area during battles. She understood that Zhang Yi was protecting her. However, she was always worried, fearing that something might happen to him. Zhang Yi looked at Zhou K'er with a serious expression. She really wanted to help. In a world with extremely low temperatures, if someone got injured on the battlefield and didn't receive timely treatment, it could easily lead to death. Zhang Yi smiled, "If you can't protect yourself, you'll only distract me from focusing on the battle. Don't be foolish, girl. A medic on the battlefield is indeed very important, but first and foremost, they must not become a burden." Zhou K'er countered, "If it were before, I'd understand that bringing me along might be a hassle for you. But now, if it's a major battle, we definitely need to ensure full logistical support. I think that not only we, but other forces as well, will have their own logistical staff accompanying them." Uncle Vu also spoke to Zhang Yi. "I feel Zhou K'er is right. With the 5 strongest forces gathering in Tianhai City, almost all the combat power is assembled here. Therefore, this battle is unlikely to end quickly. If the battle drags on, logistics will become extremely important, especially medical staff." Zhou K'er looked at Zhang Yi with sincere eyes. "Because of your carefulness, our team has never faced casualties. But this situation cannot last forever. You also know that on the battlefield, death is a frequent occurrence. Doctors are very important as well." The discussion made Zhang Yi think deeply. Although he was very strong, in such a large-scale battle, he couldn't be sure he wouldn't get injured. With temperatures as low as -60 degrees, any wound could turn into necrosis. Minor injuries could lead to disability, and severe ones could be fatal. It was easy to talk bravely, but when actually injured, there would be no place to cry. Moreover, even for future considerations, those around him must be able to adapt to all harsh conditions, including on a battlefield. After a moment of thought, Zhang Yi finally agreed, "Then you can come with us this time. I will find a way to arrange for you to stay in the rear. You must keep a safe distance and only come to treat us if we get injured." Zhou K'er, delighted, hugged Zhang Yi around the neck, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "I understand, I will fulfill my responsibilities as a doctor." Seeing Zhou K'er volunteer, Lu Karen also stood up, not wanting to be left out. She patted her small chest and said, "Brother, take me along too. My shooting skills have been improving." Zhang Yi looked up at the girl and said calmly, "Don't you forget that shooting skills aren't very effective against zombies." Lu Karen's face stiffened. Zhang Yi didn't give anyone a chance to oppose and firmly stated, "Except for K'er, no one else is allowed to come. Everyone must stay in the safe zone." Lu Karen had no choice but to reluctantly sit back down. Yang Xinxin remained calm. At times like this, there wasn't much they could do. Uncle Vu's wife and Yang Sha also showed a hint of relief in their eyes. They didn't have the courage of Zhou K'er to accompany Zhang Yi and his group to the battlefield. After all, they were not combatants. Going with them would be very dangerous, so staying in the safe shelter was the best option. Lu Karen helped Zhang Yi check the snow vehicle once more to ensure there were no hidden dangers. She then helped fill it with fuel. Zhang Yi and his team checked their weapons and gear. Once everything was prepared, they planned to set off. Zhou K'er was given a small silver pistol by Zhang Yi. "While guns are almost useless against zombies, they are necessary for you. Keep this for self-defense. It's very useful for dealing with people." While the immediate threat was zombies, Zhang Yi didn't consider the major forces as allies. They remained potential enemies, temporarily cooperating for mutual benefit, but it was hard to avoid the risk of someone stabbing them in the back. Zhou K'er had practiced shooting before. Although not very precise, it was sufficient for self-defense. She took the gun and tucked it into the dual pockets of her combat uniform. The team boarded the snow vehicle, and after finalizing the security of their hideout, they headed towards the headquarters of Baishui sect in the Tianfeng district. At Baishui sect, upon learning that the investigation team and representatives from other forces were arriving, they quickly prepared. Bian Junwu and his team were the first to arrive. Zheng Yixian and a group of priests went out to greet them. Although they said it was a welcome, in reality, there was nothing special about it. At such a time, they naturally had no time to prepare for a formal reception. Zheng Yixian approached Bian Junwu and his team and said, "Welcome to Baishui sect. We're curious about the sudden request for all the major forces to gather here. If we had been informed in advance, we could have prepared better." Wu Di sneered, crossing his arms and said, "Given the current state you're in, how could you prepare anything properly? We are here to help you solve the problem. You just need to obediently follow our commands." Upon hearing Wu Di's words, several people behind Zheng Yixian showed their displeasure. Wu Di frowned and said, "What, you seem dissatisfied? Do you want to step outside and spar a bit? Maybe you can take me on all at once." Han Chong could not hold back and said, "Don't be so arrogant. Even though people from the Jiangnan region are strong, we are not weak either." Zheng Yixian scolded, "Han Chong, be quiet." He turned to Wu Di and apologized, "Please don't take offense. Recently, Baishui sect has suffered heavy casualties, and the believers are inevitably experiencing some extreme emotions." Wu Di was about to say something more, but Bian Junwu lightly tilted his head, prompting him to fall silent. Bian Junwu said to Zheng Yixian, "We will discuss the plan once everyone is gathered." He didn't want to explain everything to Zheng Yixian alone. Zheng Yixian smiled, "Good. Would you like to rest in the church's quarters?" After saying this, he personally invited the investigation team and everyone into the church's resting area. Bian Junwu walked straight ahead, with some others following closely behind him. As they walked, Bian Junwu asked, "How many people have died at Baishui sect over the past few days?" Zheng Yixian pondered for a moment before answering in a low voice, "After several days of continuous fighting, thousands of believers have been killed by zombies. Some have been infected and couldn't be treated in time. We had to euthanize them humanely to prevent further mutations." Bian Junwu frowned, specifically, how many people have died? He was very concerned about this number. Only by knowing the death toll at Baishui sect could he understand the impact of the zombies on them. Zheng Yixian was a bit surprised, hesitated for a moment, then said, "I'm truly sorry, but we haven't kept a specific tally of the deaths among the believers. It's estimated to be around 3,000 to 4,000. Hearing this number, Bian Junwu was somewhat surprised, looking around at the relatively simple defensive structures compared to large bases. In the freezing winter, although Baishui sect had many people, they did not have enough resources to build a solid defense. Bian Junwu looked at Zheng Yixian with suspicion and asked, "So how have you managed food supply during this apocalypse to sustain thousands of people? We need a large amount of food, and I'm very curious about how you've managed it." Food supply is a major concern for any force in the apocalypse. If Bian Junwu were not from a large area in the south, raising this issue might be seen as making excuses. Zheng Yixian hesitated for a moment, then finally answered, "We search for supermarkets, which are often buried in the surrounding areas, and harvest food or survival supplies from them." Bian Junwu looked at Zheng Yixian through his sunglasses. While his gaze was unreadable, it was clear that he was not fully convinced by this explanation. He responded, "Oh, is it really that simple? In this environment, finding food also requires a lot of energy. How does Baishui sect manage to excavate food from deep snowdrifts, and then sustain thousands of people? There have even been times when the number of believers reached over 10,000.